Hello everyone, and welcome to the first YouTube video on my channel. For today, since we're starting out, I thought it'd be nice to handle something that's entirely uncontroversial, unproblematic, very wholesome. You'll know what it is if you've read the title of this video, which I presume you did since you clicked on it. We're going to be talking about the Donald Trump Ballroom addition to the White House. Again, entirely wholesome, no controversy whatsoever. Um, So this video is going to be a bit chaotic just because me, but also it's an ongoing project. So we don't have tons of imagery for this yet. Um, and that's fine because really I'm more interested in like the philosophical theoretical ideas behind Donald Trump's building of this ballroom. And what that says about him and what it says about architecture and what it says about our society as we exist currently. But let's begin with the ballroom itself. So the ballroom is not inherently a bad idea. It's been discussed before. Donald Trump himself has offered to do it before he was even president. He apparently offered it to the Obama's administration, so that's fun. Um, and the reason that why people think that the ballroom is decent enough idea is because current large events at the White House are required to be held at the South Lawn, which because the existing interior space is not large enough for more than about 200 people. So any event larger than that, state visits, state banquets, yada yada yada, these have to be held on the lawn, which in turns is a huge expenditure. Apparently, I don't track the personal finances of the government because that's the government's job, not mine. But it costs money to set up the tent, to tear down the tent, not tear down, but take down the tent, and to refinish the lawn when the tent has been removed. Because it has to be beautiful. It's America, you know? Everything about America is beautiful. Am I right? Right? Don't look at the current news going on as I record this. Um, so the White House itself having a ballroom for these large formal events. The main problem you see in the media that people are having with it is the way he's gone about it. It's the demolition of the East Wing without any real plans for it. There was a meeting from the National Capital Planning Commission just Thursday on the 8th. I think that was Thursday of January, where they presented a few preliminary plans to this committee, just to basically to be nice. Really, no one was really critical at the meeting at all, mainly because there's nothing to be critical about, aside from how Trump is going through the process of getting this built. Um, so the ballroom itself is going to be about 22,000 square feet, and the entire addition, which will also hold a preparatory food area, so like professional kitchen. Uh, is that what it's called? Yeah, a professional kitchen, as well as the first lady's offices, will also be held in this wing, and it's going to be a total of about 90,000 square feet. That's nearly twice as big as the White House is currently. Just for perspective, the ballroom itself, 22,000 square feet, is half the size of the White House as it is currently, which is 55,000 square feet. So he's proposing to triple the floor area of the White House and also claiming environmental reasons. Sure, okay. I guess it'll be new, so it'll be more efficiently heated and cooled. But you're also, going through all the carbon emissions of tearing down an existing building and then constructing a new building, which is embodied carbon is where the problem is in the built construction industry. That is the problem. Operational carbon is also a significant issue, but the big thing is constructing, especially when it's made out of concrete, which this apparently will be concrete and stone painted white to match the White House. It'll be the same height. Apparently, the cornice will be the same height as the White House. So they've taken all these historical things into consideration um, in the planning. But since it's still so early, I'm not going to talk too much about it. Besides the fact that it looks honestly, it looks more like a church to my mind. It looks like a white version of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome, or maybe like the windows are kind of the Bibliothèque Sainte Geneviève in Paris, the library, um, which is a 19th century building and very industrial in like cast iron columns, supports, that sort of thing. It's actually a really cool building. Anyway, I digress. The reason I primarily want to talk about this video is because the Ballroom edition reflects Donald Trump's Donald Trump's Donald Trump's ongoing attempts to connect this historical style of building, which is a revival of neoclassical architecture, which is a revival of kind of Renaissance architecture, but mainly the ancient architecture of Greece and Rome, um, and connecting that to a conservative political agenda in this idea that the past was this fantastic, glorious place where everyone should want to be. We all love it. And, nothing bad ever happened in the past. Certainly not in the America's past. I can't think of anything bad in America's past that they've done. Not one thing. But this is a part of a broader architectural movement and cultural movement, frankly, where people want to see just effort put into buildings again. Because you have all these people online decrying these, it's like a 4/1 is like the standard thing. It's 5 stories, it's 4 floors of apartments or flats or whatever you want to call it over a single story of commercial, retail, etc. space. And they're really kind of ugly. I think they're ugly, frankly. I really do. Um, Funnily enough, the architecture firm that has been tasked to design the ballroom that replaced the original architect is actually quite known for designing these 4/1 structures, which is very fun. And I think this speaks to what the average person doesn't know about architecture or the architectural profession, that is. Plenty of people understand, buildings, facade, windows, you go through them. The Corbusian concept of the architectural promenade, which is based off of a Beaux-Arts concept. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, I need to digress, so I will. But broadly speaking, people want effort put into architecture. And what I think most people don't understand is that architecture is really expensive, especially if you want this like extravagant filigree ornamentation filled space, because we don't have, it's not that it can't be done, frankly. You see these people bemoaning online all the time, oh, we can't build buildings like this anymore, blah 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 blah. Yes, we can. The people that can do it still exist professionally. There's just a lot less of them. It's becoming an increasingly specialized field of people who can construct these things in these extravagant styles. And that costs money, frankly. And we exist, as Kate Wagner references in a podcast I was listening to the other day, we exist in a post-capitalistic world where the primary driving force behind virtually everything is finance. And everything, especially architecture-wise, because buildings are expensive already, wants to be done as cheaply and as quickly as possible, which is why you have these bog standard buildings that no one likes, and no one wants to live in. I mean, I certainly don't. Some people maybe do because they're weird, but anyway, We're not going to address that. So what we have to understand is that when people complain about modern contemporary buildings, not modern buildings specifically, though the neo-traditional return architecture movement here in the States, what's called new classical architecture in the UK, and broader in Europe, uh, is a part of that cultural phenomena where people want effort and time and thought put into their buildings. And time and effort is put into the buildings that are being built. It's not a simple process to build a building. I can assure you. It's a lot. It takes years to design and get a building through planning permission and on the construction, and then it has to be constructed, and you have to make sure it's constructed well. But these things all cost time and money, and that's the biggest problem here: is that things cost time and money, and the people that have the time and money don't want to spend the time and money on the buildings, in a broad sense, for unless they're for like personal use, which is resulted in this influx of so just straight glass facades and skyscrapers and lots of uh, cheap paneling on buildings. But it reflects a broader cultural movement where, which I refer to as a phantasm, which is this constructed idea of reality, which people then render as truth. And how that relates to this movement is that when people think about the past in historic buildings, they only see the grand filigree and stateliness of these, extravagant structures. We're not talking about the random log cabins that were built as colonists were settling and displacing indigenous people from their lands in the United States. They're thinking about palaces and ballrooms, churches, cathedrals, opera buildings, big museums, big stately institutional buildings. And they see that and they say, we should be doing that. And then they create these ideas of the past, which ignores a lot of the realities of the past. And that's, as I said, what I'm primarily interested in. And the big reason why I made this video, which is basically a precursor to my PhD. I've tricked you into all watching a very bad explanation of my PhD proposal. Um, but yes. So I'll leave you with a few final words, which are that buildings are expensive. The past objectively sucked for most people. And recreating something does not always result in the same execution because times change, building methods change, cultural phenomena change. What is important to a society in the 1500s is not the same as what's important to a society in the 1800s, and is not important to the same society in the 2000s, where we are now. So yes, Donald Trump is building this ballroom, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be prestige, but it's not really going to be bad at the end of the day. It'll be a little cheesy, a little corny, but the bigger issue is this connection between architecture and the past and conservatism. So yeah, I don't really know how to end this because, like I said, this is what my PhD proposal is on. So I haven't done tons and tons and tons of research into it because that's the purpose of the PhD. Um, but I'll be, discussing this more throughout other videos that I make on this channel. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments of Donald Trump's ballroom. Not Donald Trump. Do not let me know what you think of Donald Trump. That is not the topic of this video. It's the ballroom. It's the ballroom. Um, Let me know if you have any suggestions for what I should talk about on this channel. It's it's going to be architecture focused, but that encompasses a lot of things. Um, this is just because it can. It's architecture. There's theory, there's history, there's society, there's economic, there's construction, there's policy. Who knows what I'll talk about? I have a lot of ideas, but let me know what you want to see. So yes, thank you for watching. And I hope you enjoyed what was a very messy video because I warned you up front. And be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, and I will see you next time.